It's happening. Like, we've been begging for months since she started doing interviews about Snow White. Disney officially
They've said the worst that can be said, and you just kind of say thank you so much for this.
Now, could we ever see you step into the Marvel universe? I would love a job. That's all I have to say. I'll take a job.
Jeremy Renner has always been a man who keeps to himself, not one to publicly defend his personal life or get involved in drama. But after the way things were unfolding with Rachel Zegler, it seemed that even someone like Jeremy couldn't remain silent any longer. The situation had been brewing for quite some time, but it finally reached a boiling point when Zegler, a rising star in Hollywood, made some incredibly harsh comments about him, leading to an intense public backlash. In 2019, the Snow White actress started to make her name by calling out Jeremy Renner, the iconic actor who plays Clint Barton or Hawkeye in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It all started with her speaking out about the controversy surrounding Jeremy's personal life, particularly his troubled marriage with Sonni Picho. The custody battle that ensued between Jeremy and Sonni had been deeply painful for the actor, with public accusations flying back and forth, some of which were deeply damaging to Jeremy's reputation. But instead of showing empathy or restraint, Rachel Zegler took to social media to slander the actor and add fuel to the fire. As a rising star in Hollywood, Zegler should have been careful with her words, especially when discussing someone like Jeremy Renner. The actor had just endured one of the toughest times in his life, dealing with divorce papers and allegations that were not only
is choosing peace. And as much as you'd like to remind people verbally that being in the spotlight,
like, we've been begging for months since she started doing interviews about Snow White. Disney officially fires
personal, but also public and extremely painful. It was no secret that Jeremy had been accused of abuse by his ex-wife, Sonni. She had accused him of being emotionally, physically, and sexually abusive towards their daughter, and even made claims that Jeremy had threatened to end his own life in front of their child. These claims were serious, and they damaged Jeremy's reputation deeply. However, despite these harsh accusations, Jeremy maintained that they were false. He denied every allegation, even going so far as to undergo drug testing to prove he was not abusing substances. He hired a mental health specialist to prove he was stable enough to be around his daughter. Jeremy's legal team meticulously put together a timeline of his film releases, showing that his ex-wife's accusations were timed with his biggest movie releases, suggesting an effort to discredit him during those critical periods. Jeremy claimed that Sonni had attempted to exploit his fame and wealth, and had used their daughter as a pawn in their ongoing legal battle. Despite the drama, Jeremy remained focused on his daughter's well-being, repeatedly requesting time with her to let Sonni overcome her obsession with demonizing him. He never stopped fighting for what he believed was right for his child. But this was the time that Rachel Zegler entered the fray. Instead of showing compassion or understanding for what Jeremy was going through, she took to Twitter to make his situation even worse. Zegler, known for her role as Snow White in Disney's live-action adaptation, used her platform to publicly mock Jeremy Renner. It wasn't enough for her to just comment on his personal life. She decided to take it a step further and insult him in a very public and cruel manner. She tweeted, "Can I be the new Hawkeye?" To which she followed up with, "Actually, I think the new Hawkeye should be a trans woman of color, to stick it to that racist, sexist, transphobic garbage monster." She wasn't finished there. Her next tweet added, "And definitely proper representation for the great deaf and hard of hearing community. A deaf, trans woman of color." The irony was almost unbearable. Zegler was publicly tearing down Jeremy, an actor who had been accused of serious crimes, but who was still fighting for his daughter's well-being. Her words were not only insensitive, but also completely out of line. Not only was she questioning his character, but she was doing so without a single shred of evidence to support her claims. She, like many others, had become part of a growing internet hate train, attacking someone who had already been through enough personal pain. The internet quickly turned on Rachel. Fans and followers who had once supported her were now calling her out for her hypocrisy. They pointed out how she was publicly advocating for choosing peace and ignoring hate, yet her own actions were the very embodiment of the hate she had spoken against. Zegler had even been vocal about not feeding the hate trains that had circulated around other celebrities, including Gina Carano. Yet, here she was, taking aim at someone like Jeremy Renner, a man she barely knew, based on a few unproven allegations and an obvious desire to use her platform.
Just as you said, it's like choosing to be present and know that they're probably just having a really hard day.
Now, could we ever see you step into the Marvel Universe? I would love a job. That's all I have to say. I'll take a job.
For personal gain. It seemed like Zegler's hatred wasn't just limited to Jeremy. Over time, her behavior had started to reflect a pattern of attacking anyone who didn't fit her worldview. Her public battle with Gina Carano over pronouns was just another example of her using social media to wage war on those she disagreed with. The feud was ugly, and it gained her more negative attention than she could have ever imagined. And now, with her remarks about Jeremy Renner, the backlash was even worse. To make matters worse, Rachel's portrayal of Snow White had become controversial in its own right. Fans of the original Disney movie, many of whom had grown up watching it, were now enraged by her comments about the beloved character. Zegler had repeatedly insulted the story and the legacy of Snow White, calling the original movie outdated and problematic. This only added fuel to the fire, and now it looked like Disney was beginning to distance itself from Zegler. Reports started to circulate that Disney had begun making moves to replace her as Snow White. Her screen time had been significantly reduced, and a younger actress was rumored to be stepping in to salvage the character. Disney, known for its sensitivity to public relations, seemed to be tired of Zegler's controversial behavior, and it was becoming clear that they might have had enough of her antics. It wasn't just about the public relations nightmare that Rachel had caused. It was about the simple fact that her behavior was unbecoming of someone in her position. As a public figure, especially one working with a company as powerful and influential as Disney, there's a responsibility to maintain a level of professionalism and respect. Zegler, however, had failed to do this. She had repeatedly thrown fuel on the fire of internet drama, and now it seemed that Disney had taken notice. It wasn't just Disney's reputation on the line. Jeremy Renner, too, had to contend with the damage done to his name. The internet's relentless criticism of him had been difficult to endure. Yet, Renner's response to it was something that stood out. While many people in his position would have lashed out at the critics or defended themselves publicly, Jeremy chose a different route. He spoke little about the situation and instead focused on his work and his family. Jeremy had learned to keep his cool in the face of public scrutiny. In an interview, he said, "I don't react publicly or privately to nonsense. It only empowers it. If you react, you give it gas. I don't feed fires. I just don't do it. I refuse to." Jeremy's approach was calm, collected, and dignified, especially compared to Rachel's outbursts. He didn't allow the negativity surrounding him to affect his peace of mind. Fans couldn't help but notice the stark contrast between the two actors. While Jeremy remained composed and silent, allowing his actions to speak louder than any words, Rachel kept fanning the flames of controversy. In fact, it was almost as if she was addicted to the attention, constantly stirring the pot to keep herself in the limelight. But eventually, this kind of behavior catches up with you, and it seemed like Rachel was beginning to feel the heat of her own making. As the days went on, Disney's intentions became clearer. The studio, long associated with family-friendly content and positive messaging, began to show signs of moving away from Rachel Zegler. While she had once been the face of the new Snow White, her controversies, many of which had gone unchecked, had now put her career in jeopardy. It was a reminder that, in Hollywood, no one is above reproach, no matter how big their role or how bright their star might seem. Jeremy Renner's situation was far from over, but it seemed that the tides had started to turn in his favor. With Disney distancing itself from Rachel Zegler and the public finally starting to see her actions for what they truly were, it was becoming clear that Zegler's controversial career was heading into a very uncertain future. And so, the story of Jeremy Renner and Rachel Zegler's tangled public feud continued, with one actor choosing to remain silent and dignified in the face of hate, while the other's words continued to create a firestorm that threatened to burn everything she had built. The outcome, as always in Hollywood, was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Jeremy Renner was not about to back down, and neither was Disney when it came to protecting its brand.